Oh, I should say dumped the roof of the dirt. Let me, got it. Okay.
No,
So
you're
that's what
good.
ended up. So that's what ended up happening. Like, and these were very seasoned chiefs that were on this job. That were running this that night. The guys that you would want on your in your foxhole any day of the week. And and all of our jobs has that guy that you don't want to be there in any given situation. These weren't those guys. These are like, an all-star lineup of chiefs. Like I tell people, everything that could have went wrong that night did, and everything that needed to go right that night also did. So everything went wrong and everything went right. And, it just shook out in my favor.
So you're the survival and RIT instructor at the time.
Yeah,
Um, when your partner called for the Mayday, it was your partner, right?
it was. Yep.
Yeah. What was the reaction? What were guys thinking? How did they respond from the moment from your call for help to getting up and finding you?
So there was access issues. How do you determine the front of your house? Is it side A or side one? How do you,
Hey, Alpha.
side A? Okay, so if you could picture, side B is where the original firehouse was, and it was already collapsing. So there's no access into the B side. And then obviously the C side's the rear, and they're coming from the A side. And to get up the D side, there was like I say, there was a foot of snow there. There was a ton of debris. It was on a little bit of a hill and everything like that. So access was a little bit of a problem getting up there. They were able to get up there, but it was just, not easy footing and a little more labor intensive than it would have been if it was a July day, let's say. Um, but yeah, they got right up in there. Emotions were running high as far as that goes. Um, One of the kids on my truck is the son of the battalion chief that was running the operation in the rear. So, you could just imagine, here's my son going into this house that just had a catastrophic collapse that's on fire, like unbelievable. Um, and you probably appreciate, can I tell the story as is? Because the F bomb's gonna come out. And I know it's recorded, I don't want to offend anybody. But this is how the story went. It's factual. So what happened was he had run out of air. He comes outside and he slips on the ice, and it's like one of those oh my god moments like you're gonna see on YouTube. Like, I think this guy's like dead. Looked like he got shot by a cannon. He goes down, smashes his head off of the ground. His father's standing right there. Lucky the kid was a hockey player, so took a lot of slap shots to the head in his day. He was a goalie, so it wasn't bad. But he gets up, and he grabs another air pack, and his father's telling him, "You're not going back in there." And he's like, "Fuck you, I'm not. My guy's in there." He goes back in the house. Now you got like a near mutiny going on top of it. I'll throw that into the mix. So there were a lot of little things that went on that night too.
So when the Mayday happened, there was a bit of scramble. The guys are now coming up to find you. You were keeping your cool. That was a thing that really impressed me about you. What kind of things were helping you chill out?
Yeah, so when it comes to that, like I'll sit here, and I don't want anybody to think, let me put this in the perfect context for you. I don't, just because I'm telling the story matter of factly right now, and oh yeah, and making a few jokes and stuff like that. Don't think for one second that I wasn't absolutely terrified. Okay, completely, absolutely terrified. When this all went down, I'm on fire. I'm pinned. My guy's gonna leave me. There's fire everywhere. I know I'm gonna be running out of air at some point. So just because I'm telling the story like this right now, I'm not going to puff out my chest and be like, oh, yeah, no, piece of cake. I wasn't worried about it. No, absolutely frantically scared at that point. And then something came over me at one point because my feeling about everything in life is if, I could possibly swing some of the variables into my direction, I may be able to change the theoretical outcome of the event. So now I'm like, okay, well, this is where you're at. You're not just going to quit. What are you going to do? What's your plan? And that's where I'm like, okay, what variables can I change? I can't change my leg being pinned. There's nothing I'm going to be able to do about that. So what can you change? So I can change my breathing pattern. I can try and slow my heart rate down. I have a hose line right next to me that I have wide open because there's fire everywhere still at this point. So I have a hose line next to me. When I run out of air, pull off my mask and I'm going to crack the hose line next to my face and try and breathe off of that hose line. And I'm going to try and add as much weight to this building as I can with water, as well as the master streams that were pounded from the outside, because I was hoping for a secondary collapse. Because I didn't think anybody was going to be coming for me, because from what I was seeing, I'm like, just like they had in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I know some of those guys up there, you can't kill any more firefighters at some point. And I thought I was in that situation just from the catastrophic event of the collapse and the volume of fire. I really didn't think anybody was coming. My portable radio smashed, so I had no communications either. Because what happened was when the roof collapsed, a brick ended up hitting my lapel mic and smashed the key right into the housing. That's why I couldn't call my own Mayday. At first, I was trying to look for my mic, and I'm like, my mic, my radio was working in the other house. I was calling for a hose line. Now I'm a little confused. You can imagine the whole joint came down on me, and now I can't figure out why I can't talk on the radio. Come to find out afterwards, when the bricks and the chimney and stuff came down, one of them smashed the thing right into the housing. So now I have no communication either. So now I'm just there, and it's like, okay, let's do this and let's see where this goes. And I was trying to listen for sounds of creaking, groaning, cracking, anything like that, anticipating a secondary collapse. And then if that happens and I'm managed to survive it, then I'm going to try and boogie out of there. One of the funny things, though, with the incident commanders and stuff like that, it's kind of funny, because now when I listen to the audio, at one point I'm laying there and I'm happy that the master streams from the tower ladder is hitting the house, because I know it's adding a lot of weight to it, and I'm hoping for secondary collapse. And now when I get to listening to the radio transmissions, at one point you hear the incident commander saying shut down the tower ladder, because he didn't want to add any more weight to the house, and for the potential of it to collapse. So he knew the rapid intervention team was coming. He didn't want to have weight. And I'm laying there and I'm like, oh shit, they just shut the friggin' tower ladders off. How's this place going to dump, without any extra weight? So it's so funny when you see it from both different perspectives. They're both right, but they're both separate pieces of information.
Yeah, interesting. So as they come up and they arrive to you, I can only imagine that a RIT is probably pretty hyped. They're pretty amped to get in there and start working with you. They ran into your partner on the way up the stairs, right?
Yeah, he was in the stairwell at that point at a window, and he was just pointing, he's in there, follow this hose line, and he's at the end of it somewhere. But the hose line was covered in debris and stuff like that, so they really couldn't find it. It went through the door. Then you have the collapsed debris field, so now they really couldn't find it, so they had to try and hone in on me. And I could hear them at this point, and you couldn't, really hear my pass device because everything was buried. So I was actually thinking to myself, is it worth it for me to try and bang my Halligan, onto the ground to help them hone in on where I'm at? Or do I not want to exert any more energy than necessary, and breathe heavier? And I actually opted for them to hone in on me. So I did end up banging with the Halligan, which they did not end up hearing, because I asked them afterwards, how they managed to find me. Was it from banging the Halligan? They were like, nope, never heard that.
I got it. So when they got to you and then pushed the debris aside and got to the end of those and got to you, what was that interaction like?
I was trying to be very calm with them. I mean, because a lot of these kids are young, we have a pretty young job right now. So, when you have the old guy that's been around for 30 plus years, if I'm coming unglued and losing my mind, then they don't have a shot of, being a little bit relaxed. So I had to mentally, and I did that while I was lying there too, because really, what else am I doing? I'm lying there. I got to think of something, and I was like, if somebody does come into this house and they get to me, just try and be calm, just try and be really calm and, Yep, we're all good. We're gonna, we'll figure this out. It's like one of my classic lines, no matter how bad things are, we'll figure it out. So, I told them that. They came to me. And one of the parts of the story that you don't hear was when we came out of that first house, I used about maybe a half of my air pack before we had to bail out of that first house. So I said to my partner, I'm like, all right, we still have a half a bottle of air, but let's swap out our packs for new bottles. I said, because what's going to happen is the engine companies are going to come into this house after already being in the other one. They're going to be pretty much out of air pretty soon and will steal their hose lines. Because, I don't get to play with water and I'm a rescue company. So if I could steal somebody's hose lines 35 years later, I'm still going to try and steal somebody's hose line. So that's the reason why I actually still had air in my air pack. Because at one point companies were leaving. My plan would have worked. If the building did not collapse, somebody was going to have to give me that hose line because they ran out of air. So, so that was like one of the kind of the key things, that, like I say, everything that could have gone right also went right. I mean, what are the odds really on me, swapping out my air pack and that event happening? I mean, I did it for all bad intentions, not because I thought the roof was coming down. So that was like one of those
It's
things.
okay. You're being selfish.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
okay. You're selfish and it worked out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, as we're kind of rolling through here, I just put it out. Do any of you guys have any questions so far?
Sure, I have a question, Dan.
Yeah,
Just a takeaway from all of this.
Right.
Oh, sorry. This is a takeaway. Training Rit prior to this experience. Was there something after this experience that you found yourself focusing on or emphasizing in the trainings to really prepare yourself for the real thing?
For the real thing, I think a lot of the RIT training, now that I look back on it, is everybody wants to have so many different moving parts and they think this is how it's going to go. Like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And you're going to do these 50 things where it's just going to be down, dirty and ugly and just get it done. It's not going to be, a bunch of little fancy, maneuvers and probably not going to be, a bunch of the stuff that you think it's going to be. It's probably going to be pretty, just down and dirty. When it comes to that, because at least
that kind of leads me into my second.
I'm sorry.
So that leads me into the second question. Did you ever try like a technique we try here in Canada is converting yourself and such and preparing yourself maybe for extrication? Did you did they convert your pack or did you, like you say, just get down and dirty and grab a hold and get you out? Or
yeah, what ended up happening was they still had to lift the roof up off of me in the third floor. So if you can picture rafters, in a pitched roof house, what they did was they got like a 4x4 and they put it on that rafter and they were trying to lift it with a bottle jack to come up to lift the whole roof up. What happened was it was on such an aggressive angle, the bottle jack, they're two, not good angles. Those angles don't work together. So it didn't work. The 4x4 kept rolling because it wouldn't go up. So then they ended up coming in with the hearse spreaders and rams and getting it up, that way. So it's just a lot of, like down and dirty sort of stuff. You're going to have to kind of think on the fly more than anything. But as far as the converting the pack goes, I was able to walk. So they weren't going to have to drag me out. And truthfully, though, I'll be honest with you, because I do teach that, converting the pack over and everything like that. But that wouldn't have dawned on me, because even when my radio got smashed, I was trying to transmit a Mayday. At no point did I ever even think of pressing the panic button. Many times I've taught people to press their panic button. Didn't even think about it. So there's just so much information going through your head in that given moment. Something that you teach, something that you're comfortable with, wasn't even a remote thought. In fact, I didn't even think about it until somebody asked me a couple of days later, "Oh, did you try and press your emergency, your emergency button?" I'm like, didn't even dawn on me once. So if, for me to convert my own pack over, I probably wouldn't have thought about that. But I couldn't really get to it either because I was buried from the waist down. So there would have been really no way for me to do it, even if I had thought of it.
That's good. Look, I'll go to the substations. Firehouse 2, Firehouse 3. Do you have any questions so far? Oh, 3's out. Number 2, do you guys have any questions or anything for Dan so far? So I'm staring at your lovely chin there, Kavanaugh. You want to give me a thumbs up if you got a
How much
question?
air did you have left when you got out?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Did you catch that? Yeah, I'm mute.
How much air did you have left?
Yeah.
When they got to me?
Yeah.
Right. So here's one of those things where if I wasn't part of the story and I was to hear this, I would call bullshit on it. Because when they got to me, they were like, how do you want to do this? Like, how do you want, to do the whole thing? So for them to use Scott Air Packs, let me back up a second.
Yep.
Okay, so there's no way to get to the universal air connection on mine because I was buried from the waist down. So we're only limited to a few ways of doing it. Was it going to be a regulator swap? Was it going to be, how do we want to do this? And I'm like, just put the mask in my hand and I'll do a full mask swap on myself because I've been doing this for so damn long. It's easy for me to just rip one off and throw another one on. It'd be the quickest way to do it. When they put that regulator in my hand, my mask sucked to my face. And like I say, you would think that's some Hollywood nonsense. You only see it. But if you look at the timestamp on the radio for the transmissions to the point when they said they got me on air, you'll see it's very believable. Say, yeah, I could see it was, right in that ballpark. It's not, unrealistic to think that. But yeah, I had no air when they got to me. And when they did the extrication, it isn't like it wasn't still bad up there. They had 3 3/4 inch hose lines operating at the same time in that area, and they had fire beneath me. So, getting air was critical. And 3 of the guys that did the rapid intervention, I actually taught rapid intervention to in their fire academy. So it's kind of ironic.
How many rapid intervention teams came in?
I'm sorry, was
How
that
many,
first?
how many RIT teams came in to help with the rescue?
So what we have is we team up an engine and a truck company because no matter what, because some of our engines and some of our trucks have 3 and some have 4. So what they do is they team 2 of them up together to go in as a single RIT team. So it was the guys from my company that were up there. So you had 3 heavy rescue guys. You had, like 6 RIT guys, and then you had multiple companies operating hand lines as well, but they weren't really part of the whole RIT thing. So to answer your question, there was 6 RIT people total.
That's great. Gentlemen, any other questions so far?
I was wondering.
Come on, right up and talk to the camera. No, because you can't hear. The microphone doesn't run.
All right. I was just curious about the time delay or difference from when the Mayday went out to when the guys got to you first. Like how much time was that? And did it seem longer or shorter for you? Like did time move faster or was it slowing down?
The time, it seemed like it was longer. It seemed like it was an eternity. But in reality, it was 15 minutes. And from the time of the Mayday until they got to me, and it was 32.5 minutes until I was able to exit the building. So it took like 17 minutes for them to unbury me and do all of that other stuff.
Holy shit. So out of all of this, like incredible experience, is there anything that your department does differently now compared to prior?
A couple of things. So this was an anomaly kind of when it comes to Maydays, because we know they usually happen around in the first 7 minutes of a fire. This happened at the 60-minute mark. This was like an hour into it in an exposure building. So what happened was the engine and truck that were the RIT team were standing outside in 6-degree weather in the snow for an hour. So you know how cold that, you can get, you're just standing there, you're not doing anything except standing and freezing. So then when it came time for them to, spring into action, these guys are like, frozen solid for the most part. They were still obviously able to perform and stuff, but in extreme cold and in extreme heat, now they start rotating out fast companies in a certain amount of time. They're going to start, okay, we're going to move them. Also, they no longer decide that, because you're going to have two officers now. You're going to have an engine officer and a truck officer. So who's in charge? Generally, it's always the senior person or the captain, whatever it is. But we all got that guy. He's a good test taker, really good guy, but not necessarily a guy you want, coming to get you when it's going down. And if you don't have any of those guys, I'll send you a few. So
No, yeah, I'm sure. And some of these guys are looking at him right now. So
they're whispering in the back. But now it's it's not the senior officer, it's not the captain. The chief's going to hurt somebody's feelings if necessary, because he'll grab like a 1-day lieutenant if this is a squared away dude and knows his stuff, instead of some slug of a captain that could take a test, and the only reason he gets out of bed every morning is so he can lay on the couch. So that's pretty much how it's going to go.
Okay, so you're telling me out of call, a battalion chief can adjust who's in charge of Rick.
Right. Yeah. He'll call an audible. It's not going to be the senior guy because, it's, not the way it should be going. There's too much on the line right then and there. And we're a very paramilitary organization in the city of Providence. It's not like we don't take it seriously. I mean, we salute chiefs and everything like that, so it's not kind of like, yeah, that's a captain, that's a lieutenant, whatever. It's kind of like, no, we work by the chain of command and this is how it goes. But when it comes to something like that, chief may have to call an audible and hurt somebody's feelings and explain why he made that decision at a later time.
Right. We still have a couple of questions here. Are you still good for time?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, this is cool. Mark?
Sorry. Just in the case of you calling a Mayday, I heard you say second floor trapped. We use clan conditions, locations, actions, and needs. In your radio transmission, it sounds like there was a lot of effort put into freeing you from the trapped rafters. Did they bring up any of the equipment that they needed, or were they find themselves going back out to get what they actually needed?
Well, they brought up what they thought they were going to need right off of the bat, and then had to go to plan B because they thought they were going to push the whole roof up with a 4x4, a 20-ton bottle jack, and some sawzalls, cutting pieces away with sawzalls and everything like that. But the sawzalls got wet. They got completely smoked. So they weren't functional, and the 20-ton bottle jack wasn't working because the 4x4 was rotating on the rafters. So then more equipment had to come up. So one of the other things too, getting back to one of the previous questions, some of the lessons learned, like we try to park the rescue company not in the way of the engines and trucks so they can get the street. But you don't want to park away so far if there's a collapse or something like that. You don't want the truck to be 2 blocks away either. So you got to find that sweet spot where you're going to park that rescue company. Because remember, if something goes down, that's the truck you're going to need the equipment off of more than likely.
Sorry, on the lighter side, what type of sawzall? Milwaukee or DeWalt?
Milwaukee.
We were doing. It was Milwaukee.
It's a bit of an inside joke here today. Okay, so we're having some good chat here. Gonna go to Firehouse 2 with Captain Kavanaugh. Any questions so far there, Tim?
Hello, sir. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. Just wondering if they determined what the cause of the fire was.
They think it was a heater. They think it ended up being like one of the heaters. The house was completely demolished, but they think it was an electric heater that started it.
Very
I
good.
think we're,
Very good.
I think we're good.
You're good, Tim. Back to station 3. Are you back in? Caleb Berardi, you and comms, do you want to be, do you have any question you want to throw in?
Sorry, station 3 here. We just want to call.
Yeah. Okay, Kyle, go.
Go. No, I couldn't hear anything. Sorry. We don't have anything to add. Go ahead.
We're just station 3. We're just putting it out to you if you had any questions.
Not currently. No. Sorry, we missed a lot of that.
Good to us.
All right, we're kind of made a commitment to. We're going to try to keep it on track with 30 minutes there, Dan. And there we go. Dan, these photographs that you sent me, I'm going to put them on the screen. Could you just give a bit of background to them?
Sure.
You remember that?
Oh yeah, yep.
Is that you?
Yeah, that's my neck, my shoulder, my ear, some other stuff. I had some silver dyeing left over from the Bowdoin Street fire, so I figured I'd put it to good use at this one.
Yeah, so just give me a second here, Dan. I'll pull that up. Okay, so you can I'll just get this last picture here. All right, Dan, I'm gonna have to share the pictures with the guys later.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, do you want to? Yeah, I just can't. You got to tell it to share the screen. Do you want to describe that picture?
Yeah, so that was last week. That ended up something burning right through all of my equipment. There was a report of a person trapped in the house, kind of pushing the envelope a little bit right there as well. Burnt right through my coat. Yeah, you can see where there's actually holes burnt through the shoulder of the coat. You can see all the charring on it. Afterwards. So yeah. So the coat's totaled as far as that goes.
Holy shit, buddy! Is this a normal task? A normal thing for you? Do they send the old guy into the hospital for the fire?
I got to make sure the young kids are doing stuff right. Got to keep an eye on them. Tell them, they're like, oh, look at you burnt your coat up or anything like that. I'm like, why? You worried about your purse straps burning? Just get in there and shut up. So somebody's got to lay the hammer down every now and then. So yeah, things happen.
Okay. All right, look. As we wrap up here, the last 2 questions I was going to have for you, if you had any recommendations, we have like 10 guys in the room here, and then there's the other 2 firehouses. A lot of them are new, either new to our department, or they're new in a command role. Do you have one piece of advice for somebody who's starting their career, and what kind of advice would you have for somebody who's starting in a command role or company officer role?
For anybody that's starting the job, when you're first starting off, first of all, it's the greatest job in the world. I started my 36th year a few weeks ago, and I still absolutely love it every single day. So greatest job in the world. as far as that goes. But number one, you can never train too hard for a job that can kill you. And you don't want what could be the most decisive moment of your career to be your most embarrassing. So things might not always go the way you plan just because of that's just how it goes sometimes, but you never want to turn around and say, I didn't give it everything I had and I wasn't prepared for that day. Because if somebody ends up dying, unfortunately, that's what you're going to see in this job. People are going to die. It's the nature of the beast. But you don't want to say that, your lack of training, added to that. At least you were prepared for it. And if somebody happens to die, as unfortunate as it is, you can still look at yourself in the mirror that next day. So that would be my biggest, piece of advice to anybody new coming on the job. Always keep, studying, training, learning, whatever YouTube video of, some, dog jumping through a window probably isn't as important as maybe reading something fire related for just half hour a day, 30 minutes. And that's it. As far as that goes. And then on the command staff, the command side of it, you may have to call an audible when it comes to running a Mayday. Just so you know, here's the citywide commander for that night was my captain at one point in time of my company. Come to my house for dinner, our families know each other and all of this other stuff. And now he's running this Mayday and knows it's a personal friend of his that he worked with for years inside of the company, inside of this building. And what he said to me afterwards, his son died in a car crash, hit a pole at the top of his street. I'm sorry, a tree at the top of his street. And he was able to get up there before the ambulance took his son, and he did CPR on his son all the way to the hospital. His son passes away. He said running that Mayday was the most stressful thing he ever did in his life. That's his words, not mine. So, and this is a guy that was as close as you could imagine to his son, because they were the type of family that was like, if his son could go hanging out with his friends or go fishing with his father, he was going fishing with his father. So it isn't like they weren't a really close family. So for an incident commander, just know if you have this, the type of stress that is coming your way.
Yeah, that's really good, Dan. I appreciate the honesty and the bare bones, the bare honesty about what it is to be like in that tough situation. Both your perspective, the crew that was coming up, your partner, and the IC on the ground. I'll put it out to our guys here. Do you have any final words, comment, question? Thanks. Yeah.
All right,
Gentlemen,
guys.
so I'll pass you back to our company officer for tonight.
Yeah, thanks for your time tonight, Dan. It means a lot to us.
No, any time.
We do. We're really lucky here. We have a great training officer in CTO Gillespie, and he's very passionate and he leads us very well. And it's great for him to share relationships like this he's built, and we take a lot away from it. So
Yeah, no,
thanks for your time.
I'm glad. I'm happy to do it for you, and I'm easily accessible. So, if there's something you have later on, like if something pops up you think about, I'm easy enough to text message, email. I get back to everybody, so it's not like I'd ever blow you off. So if something pops into your head, feel free to shoot it my way, and I'll definitely answer it.
Well, I got to tell you, for you guys, this all started. We became friends because I found that interview that you saw on YouTube. I found it when I was searching for Mayday calls, people under stress, found it, looked for a sign that said Providence, Googled Providence, Rhode Island Fire Department, called them up and said, do you still employ this guy? Because I wasn't sure if you were still there. And yeah, favorite guy. And they said, give him my number. So this has all started like this. And now I've learned that you teach at FDIC, and now I'm probably up to 6 beers when I see you this coming April.
Yeah, we'll be there. We're ready to rock and roll.
Good. I'll bring some Canadian beer this time.
Oh, that's all right. That works for me.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I'd ask you to join me and give them a applause.
All right, will do. Thank you, guys. Be safe out there.
All right, Dan, I'll give you a call in a day or two and we'll talk about how this all ran down. But thanks again so much, brother.
Sounds good, brother. We'll be catching up. We'll talk to you later. All right,
All
bye.
right. Thank you to your wife for giving us some of your time tonight.
Will do. Thanks. All right, bye, guys.
Bye.
now.
I gotta figure out, hold on, I gotta figure out how to finish that.